Howdy folks, Jason here with Squatch Outdoors. I'm gonna do a little education today. When I catfish with slip bobbers, and I'm gonna show how to set that system up and how to tie the bobber stopper to stop it from sliding too far. So this one's already done. Let you guys see what it is. And then we're going to set one up real quick. So I have the other pole here. All it is the bare line. I'm going to lay the rod beside me gently so I don't damage it. Okay, so the first thing I start with is a small bead. I use a small bead above my bobber. I feed that bead on. And then I put my bobber on. This can be somewhat tricky sometimes, but I can show you a quick but gross trick. It's like drinking soda through a straw. And then below my bobber, I like to put a bead to keep my bobber from beating up the top of my sinker and mushrooming the hole down, because then it will cause abrasion on your line. Then I feed my sinker, which can be tricky sometimes. A trick to that is take your braid, fold over a couple inches, and twist the very end to a point. That spiral sometimes feeds through the sinker better. It looks like this mushroomed already from using it. So I'm going to get out a new sinker. I use 3/4 ounce for my unweighted floats. These ones here are Ozark Trail from Walmart. They have pretty good size holes. They're easy to feed. So I feed the sinker on. And then below the sinker, it is a must-have to have a bead below your sinker. Because if you don't put a bead below your sinker will beat up your knot on your swivel and you will lose your entire setup. So you put the bead, and then I already have a pre-made leader that I make less in length than my bobber. And I'll explain why in a second. So I like to tie a polymer knot. You double your line over, you feed that twisted part through, then you do, with that loop, you do an overhand knot. You pull it a little bit, not tight, you pull it a little bit, open your loop up, and then you take your leader and feed your leader through the loop. Pull your loop up over your swivel. And then you want to grab your tag end and your main line and pull them tight. Now this is an ongoing argument amongst fishermen. Most fishermen will say, please lube that knot. I don't. I never have. When I use braid, I do not lube my knots. And then you'll have like a 2-inch section. I like to use a lighter. It's quick and easy. Not everybody has lighters. You can use fingernail clippers, scissors, what have you. Once you get that tied on, you have your float set up with your slipping bobber, your slipping sinker. Everything slides smoothly. Okay, so the next step is going to be tying the bobber stopper. So I'm going to reel it up. I'm going to hook my hook on my bottom loop, tighten it down, and then I'm going to go to that part of my pole right there. I'm going to have my line up off the bottom. You can use the same braid that you're using for your line, but I like to use 80-pound Suffolk braid, 832. Yes, it's pink and purple. So I cut me off about a 10-inch piece. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pinch that line to your line. You're going to wrap one side overhand 5 times. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you hold it back to the main line without releasing it. You're going to take the other end, you're going to bring it back across. Hold your finger here, and then you're going to wrap it the same direction inside the loop 5 times. 2. This can be kind of tricky. 3, 4, and 5. Then you will take your 2 tag ends. You will hold your main line and you will wiggle it back and forth to get your slack out of your knot. When you get your slack out of your knot, it will look like a little barrel on your line. I'll bring it in close so you can see. I'll use my finger as a background. You have like a little barrel. Once I get to that point, I take a triple overhand knot. I tie a triple overhand knot. I wrap that 3 times. Oh, I missed the second one. There. I cinch that down. That makes your knot bigger around so it doesn't go through your bead. And then you want to take and go around to the opposite side, and you want to do that one more time. So I tie another triple overhand knot and cinch that down. When you do this, you got to be really careful that you get your knot on the opposite side as the other one, or you just get a big bulky knot on one side of your line. Once you cinch that down, you can take, I recommend a lighter for sure at this point. My fingers are tough, they handle the heat. I melt the line off. I get all that extra tag end off, but I'm protecting my main line. At this point, I have like a 1-inch tag end. I'll bring it up here closer. So I will completely hide my main line, leaving like a 1/16 of an inch of my string out, and I will melt them tag ends back. Blowing and pulling the excess off. Yes, it burns your fingers, but after you do it a few times, your fingers get immune to it. You can always use fingernail clippers to cut it shorter. I like to burn that all the way down to the knot, basically. That way it slips through the line well. And I'm burning my fingers. So, it's a little windy out here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some slack out of my drag. I'm going to fold my main line over and protect my main line a little better so the wind doesn't blow the flame into my main line. And then I'm going to continue to melt them tag ends down until they are right against the knot, if the wind would cooperate. There we go. And then where you melted the line, it will keep it from coming untied because it's got like 2 melted knots on the end. And then there is a homemade bobber stopper that goes through your loops pretty well. Now I'm going to reel it back up through, and then I'll drop it again. Oh, I didn't drop it, did I? Blooper moment. There it went. See, it went right through that loop. And then you can take and you can slide this to any depth you want. I'm going to bring it down here close to the bobber. What I do is I take my fingernails and the inside of my finger, I pinch it and I slide my line through it. And then you have this. You have your bobber stopper, your bead, your bobber. Then you can lift your bobber to the bobber stopper. And you can do that at any depth you like. I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to talk about the hook for a second. I like to use circle hooks. I didn't used to, because I used to like setting the hook really hard. But I have gotten into cranking down on the fish, and I catch way more fish now. So my hook of desire is a Kahle hook, somewhat known as a shiner hook. It's a wire hook. It's not a big thick hook. It's a pretty thin. That's like a number 4 Kahle hook. And you can catch just about any size catfish on that. So there you have educational video of how to set up a slip bobber line for catfishing and how to tie your own bobber stoppers, so you're not buying hundreds of these little rubber ones that when you put on, they get caught in your eyelet and they slide. Then you're thinking you're fishing 6 foot deep in 8 foot of water, but your bobber's laying down, and you're like, well, I'm only 6 foot, it shouldn't be laying down. Well, that's because the bobber stopper got stuck and it slides really easy. They're not adequate for this type of fishing. They're good for keeping a bait at a certain height when you're bass fishing with little jig rigs and stuff like that. But for this, I have developed this knot, and that knot has taken me a long way. I've been using this knot for about 7 years now, and I highly recommend the knot. I will make another video of it up close, just tying the bobber knot. But for today, I thank you for your time. I thank you for subscribing and watching. And make sure that you like, comment, and interact with my videos for the chance to win free items. Thank you very much.